Hello everybody and welcome to our next warm-up session. So we're just going to warm up our physical bodies first and then we're going to start working on some bow exercises and some left hand warm-ups. So we are going to start from the top this time. So we're going to grab in big handfuls of air with our star pose and then pull them in, and then we're going to flick them out, and then we're going to have some fidgeting fingers, remembering the thumbs from the base joints like I was talking to you about before. This bit shouldn't be locked, that bit needs to move just as much as the other bits of your hands. And then we're going to do our wrists and back the other way, and then we're just going to flop out our arms and go into airplane pose. Remember those inflatable balls, yoga balls that I was talking to you about before? So they should feel, so your arms should feel heavy. You can sort of ask somebody else to hold your arms for you, or you can hold one, and then they should just be able to give the weight of your arm into your hands. So that heaviness, but without slouching. So we keep our shoulders nice and straight, the neck nice and straight, and we just, and then we can hang ourselves on a washing line, or we can go into our playing position. So just keep that heavy feeling, but heavy but loose. Okay, then we're going to get our shoulders, shrug them up to ears, and down, up and down. Give them a little shake. Then we're going to do our noble neck. Remember, be guided by your eyes. Imagine that it's string coming through the crown of your neck, and you just turn the neck very gently as far as it wants to go. Okay, and then we're going to do our body. So this is my monkey drum. So the knees should be bent, and the bent knees. I prefer going from down up. I think I find it harder to go from the top down, because actually all of this movement comes from the floor. So we're just trying something different today, but there we go. Okay, hips, do a little bop, get your hips from side to side, and then we can roll our hips one way and another. Now I haven't got any music on in the background, but actually, you know, if you struggle to sort of motivate yourself to do this, you can put one of your favourite tunes on. It doesn't have to be classical, it can be pop tune, anything, you know, that you fancy bopping along to. Might make you feel a bit less silly. I like to move it, that's quite a fun one. Okay, our knees, bob our knees and wriggle our toes. You can't see them, they're in my slippers at the moment. And then we go up onto our toes, woo, and then back down onto our heels, back up onto our toes, back down onto our heels. And then we're just trying to spread the weight evenly, feet hip width apart between the ball of our big toe, ball of our little toe, heel. The toes should be able to come up and then drop down, and the feet feel really sort of rooted to the floor. Knees nice and knees gently bent, hips tucked under, core straight, so the rib cage isn't coming forwards. It's sort of stacked above the hips. Shoulders below the ears, neck nice and straight but loose, and arms heavy and floppy and ready to go. Okay, as I said before, any of those movements can be used any time during your practice session to help relieve any bits of your body that perhaps are feeling a bit weird, a bit sort of tight. Just put the instrument down, do one of these exercises, go back to it. Okay, so today we have a rhythm tree. So I'm going to use this rhythm tree to help us start exploring some of the bits of our bow that perhaps we aren't friends with as much as we should be. One of my old teachers said, you've brought your whole bow, so use it. It's, you know, to get value for money. So we're going to have a go at combining some of the breathing exercises that we've done, and put those with our bowing. So first off, this rhythm tree is very much based on a 4-beat pattern, so we're not going to do the uneven breathing this time, we're going to do the even breathing. So we're going to breathe in for 4 and out for 4, and we're just going to get that lovely flow going. So let's just do it on separate bows first. So we go in through our nose, remember to breathe in through the back of your chest, not hunching our shoulders, okay, filling up through your whole core. So in through our nose, 4 beats, and out. In, and just let it go. Don't worry about the sound you're making, just think about how your body feels when you're doing this. It should feel really lovely, like you're just sort of floating, but with your feet firmly on the floor. In for 4, and out. In for 4, and out. Now this time we're going to join them up. So in for 4, and down bow, up bow on the in-breath. Now you'll notice that here I'm sort of holding the violin by the shoulder. If you hold it too tight, that can sometimes inhibit the movement here. So you might want to just hold it very gently in 3rd position. So even if you haven't learned to play 3rd position, bring your stroke your thumb up to the top of the scroll and just balance the violin there. Cellists, I'd probably ask your teachers, it might be whether they want your hand relaxed but not touching the strings sort of in playing position, or it might be that you just rest or have it down by your side. But we want a really sort of relaxed stance. Okay, so a lot of this pattern is based on a 4-beat pattern, so we need to think about the 4 bits of our bow. So if we look at it, middle is here. Now, I often talk about balance point. Balance point is not the middle of your bow. It's about 1/3 of the way down. So a lot of people who I teach or string class, we're often using the bow in 3s. So we do heel to balance point to singing point, and then singing point to tip. So naturally, we sort of divide our bow into 3. So this might feel a bit weird because we're going to go to the middle, quarter way, so right from the heel to quarter way, which is a bit below your balance point, to the middle, to just a bit above the singing point, to the tip. So a down bow will go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then back again. Okay, so let me show you playing. And we're just going to stop the bow very gently. And you can do this in a mirror, sort of counting 1, and then you stop and look and just see where you are on your bow and see whether you're actually sort of quarter way down. So we go 1, stop, we're about quarter way, 2, that's about halfway, it's quite hard to do it in the mirror, 3, that's 3/4, 4, and then we go back 1, 2, 3, 4, and you should be getting right to the silver of the bow. Now we've talked in the very first warm-up session about how your hand feels at different parts of the bow. So if you put it on the heel of the bow, right at the heel of the bow, cellos it will be slightly different for you because you're sort of working with gravity here, but you will still have a lot of weight at that point. So you go right to the heel of the bow and reset your bow hold. So, just crashed into an elephant. Tap your thumb, tap your first finger, tap your middle 2 fingers, and if you take your little finger off here, the bow will flop. Okay, that shows you what that little finger is doing. Its job is to sort of counterbalance the weight of the rest of the bow. That's why we need to sort of develop our little fingers. If it's locked, then the bow gets locked and you can't do anything. And if this sort of little bit collapses, little finger collapses, then it's much harder for it to work as a spring and sort of act as a seesaw. So thumb needs to be nice and bent. That's like a pivot of our seesaw. And the little finger is like the sort of person on the other end of the seesaw. Okay, so that's the feeling we should have when we're right at the heel of the bow. So now we're going to really slowly go 1, stop at quarter way, 2, halfway, 3, three-quarter way, 4. And then when we get to the tip of the bow, the little finger's almost straight, but it's not locked. The thumb is still bent, and the sort of to get the sound there, then it's this first finger that now is sort of taking the action and pushing a little, very gently, just sort of adding a bit of weight. Remember, the arm should still feel really heavy, like it's on our yoga ball. Now, when we get to this bit, make sure we're not getting any of this elbows going back. Okay, so we're going to try and keep the same sounding point, which is the distance from the bridge to the fingerboard, the same at all of these 4 bits. So 1, stop, 2, should be halfway, 3, and then reach your hand forwards, open your elbow, that's it, we're at the tip, and then back again, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay. Do that if you can pause the video, do that a few times. I would suggest you do it in a mirror. And do it so that you can reliably stop at quarter way, halfway, three-quarter way, tip, check your bow hold, check for tension at each bit, and check your sounding point. Okay, so once you've got the hang of that, then we can have a go at putting in our 4-beat note. So we're going to do a 4-beat note, and we're going to breathe out on our 4-beat note. So breathe in for 4, and out for 4, smooth. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's our semi-breathe. Now, we want to play 2 minims, or 2 woos, okay? And so we're going to use the same amount of bow per beat. So a 2-beat note will get me back to the middle. So 1, 2. So I should end up in a middle for that first minim, and back to the tip for the second minim. So let me just show you semi-breathe and the 2 minims first. So we're starting under down bow, so breathe in and out, 2, 3, 4, and breathe in. Now, if you're feeling super keen, you can try and breathe in for 4 while you're doing, and keep breathing in through the bow change. It's quite tricky. But the idea is that we're trying to keep our 4-beat breathing pattern going regardless of what the bow is doing. So we're sort of trying to teach our brains to do something different. But if that's too complicated for you at the moment, that's fine. Just the main thing is make sure you keep breathing, okay? And that is something that is consciously in your brain, and you're not trying to concentrate on your bow so much that you're holding your breath and you're adding intention. Okay, so let's just show you that one more time, the first 2 lines. So okay, so we need to do 4, I call them tars. So we're going to be using the top quarter for these tars. So we're working here, and there'll be a muscle in this bit of your arm that is going, help, I'm not used to this, and your fingers are going, oh, I'm not liking this very much. And it's having that sort of relaxed control at the tip of the bow is something that is really important. So we've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2. So we're working in this top quarter of the bow. So we're going to go tar, 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 tar. And you can see my elbow working. Tar, 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 tar. bit of my arm. So I'm actually moving, not moving from my shoulder, I'm just moving the top bit of my arm here. So won't move one more time. Ta, goes back, goes forward, ta, go back. And my bow hold's nice and loose on my neck. Okay, so now we're going to add that in. So we're going to do 4 beats, 2 beats, 1 beats, and we end up at the tip. So in for 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4, halfway, 1, 2, and back. And then at the tip, 1, 2, 3, 4. And so this first finger should be just sort of adding that lovely relaxed heavy weight to get the tone. And then you've guessed it, we're going to divide that quarter even more into 1/8 of the bow. So we're going to be using probably this sort of top bit here, yeah? So we're trying to keep the same sounding point. We're trying to sort of try and keep the same sort of tone, even though we're right at the tip of the bow. So let's just practice that top bit. So we've done ta, 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 ta. So we're using smaller bows, but right at the tip. If you haven't got, it's more important to not be bringing the bow behind you than it is to be right at the tip of the bow. So if you have discussed with your teacher or you've just moved up onto a new instrument and you can't get right to the tip of the bow with this relaxed straightened arm in front of you, or cellists, you know, pulling round, don't. Maybe put a tiny little marker, nothing that's too permanent, like a tiny little sticker that can easily come off, so that you know that. So let's say that my arm can't reach past there without having to come back. That's going to count as my full bow. So then I divide that up. Sorry, I should have said that right at the beginning. I don't want anybody pulling round just to get to the tip of the bow or create more tension. Okay, so we're going to just practice those. I can get to the tip of the, well, sort of. So we don't want the shoulders hunching, shoulders nice and relaxed, arms nice and relaxed, and we're just going to do the TTs or the quavers, but right at the tip of the bow. So T, 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 and it's the elbow, tip of the elbow, T, T, T. So the top bit of your arm, and there's this hinge that is doing that for you. Okay, so now we're going to see if we can go all the way from the top to the bottom. Try and keep your breathing steady, even though you're concentrating about lots of other things. So that's this sort of extra icing on the cake to add in. Okay, we ready? 4 beats in, 3, and breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Halfway, breathe in. Breathe out. So we've had an out breath, an in breath, and an out breath, and in breath, while our body is doing something totally different that's actually quite complicated, trying to work about where we are in our bow. So there's a lot going on in that. Again, it's just on open strings, it seems very simple. The other way round. All right, so we're going to do it once more. And now we're going to start with an up bow. It won't take us long to describe it this time because you'll have got the idea. So we start with our nice relaxed shoulders, noble neck, hands sort of as comfortably forwards as it's possible for you to, so we haven't got the elbows behind. Check your sounding point, so if you can use a mirror, that might be a good idea. And we're going to go do an up bow for 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I challenge you to get as close to the heel as possible. Feel that bow hold change, feel the weight distribution. I was concentrating on counting, so got a bit of a crunch. But actually, a sort of a relaxed crunch at the heel is better than not going to the heel at all. Okay, so the crunch, you'll learn to accommodate it, but if you never try going to the heel, you'll never know. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, right to the heel. So I've hit the silver there. Don't smack into the silver bit and ruin your strings. And then we go back to halfway. 1, 2, and back to the heel. So don't lift up your shoulder to get there. Make sure your shoulder stays up. It's these muscles here that are sort of pulling the arm in for us. Okay, and then now we're only using the bottom quarter of the bow. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, this muscle is the one that's doing the work for us. And then we're right at the heel of the bow. You might find that there's all sorts of muck there and no rosin whatsoever. And if that's the case, stop the video, go and put some rosin on the bottom bit of your bow. Okay, so your pinky's doing a lot of work here. Make sure the weight of the bow is into the string so that your hand can be nice and relaxed. Check your bow hold, and then we're going to do those quavers. So T, 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 T. Okay, so I've got quite a lot of crunch. I'm sort of, I could make it prettier, but actually I'm not too fussed about how pretty it sounds. We're really just thinking about the physicality of, are our shoulders hunching? Are we relaxed? How's our bow hold? How are we feeling at the tip, at the real heel of the bow? Okay, so let's run that through one more time. We're going to add in the breathing this time, and then these are things that you can experiment with by yourself. So breathe in and out. Right to the heel, halfway. Back to the heel. Tars. 1, 2, 3. Then right at the heel. Okay. So as I say, there's a lot in that. You can sort of take bits from it, but the main thing is that in your warm-up you should be using your whole bow. And if any bits of those bow are feeling uncomfortable, it will be something to talk to your teacher about looking at the positioning of your arm. But there's not a reason not to use them, as in you need to work out how your body and your position of your instrument can be sort of accommodated so that the whole of your bow is something that you feel comfortable using, and it doesn't cause you any sort of stress or tension. And if it is, then you go back to these bits and you sort of loosen it out, and then you have another go. But you need to keep breathing. When your brain is being challenged doing something more tricky, make sure you then coordinate your breath as well, and that will help the relaxation. Okay, enjoy.